We wanted to provide everyone with a warning before this episode begins. The content of this chapter deals with difficult matters, such as rape and violence against women. We will discuss the fictional events in this fictional world with a mindset colored by the norms of that world. If you feel this discussion might be too uncomfortable for you, please skip this episode and catch us next week.
Hello, welcome to the Ghost of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 221 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today, we'll be discussing chapter 77 of A Storm of Swords. That's Tyrion 11.
As always, we'll chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you, and hopefully we're going to provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes. They'll provide some additional information about the characters and other things of note in this chapter. How are you, Mackelly Ray, in 2024?
I'm doing just fine. It's been a while. You and I really haven't talked much over the break. You were off doing your traveling, and I had a house full of guests.
I was gone for 2 days. I wasn't really gone.
That was it?
It wasn't a lot of travelling, you know. You make me sound like Rockefeller, you know. I drove up the road and stayed at a friend's house for 2 days. Well, it's good to see you, though. Yes, it has been a long time. We don't normally have these hiati.
Right. And we've already been making each other laugh. Well, at least you making me laugh before we even got started recording. So,
but there you are. You see, now you've just touched on the third rail. Does Simon allow Mackelly to be funny on the podcast? Because if anyone didn't see this, there was Mackelly put out a outtake episode, and one of the outtakes was me saying I was going to cut that out of the podcast because I couldn't have Mackelly being the funny one. What a monster I am.
Which was quite funny.
Yes. The outtakes were well done. Well done. I laughed several times at the outtakes.
I did as well. As I was preparing them, I was laughing to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Are all these things here in Witty Banter real?
Yeah. I've been keeping notes of what's been going on in the Witty Banter. So let me start. There's a bunch here.
Yeah.
So, Carson, my good lady wife and long-suffering partner, is a preschool teacher, or she's a teacher's assistant, and she has kids, and they're sweet, you know. But one of them, I don't know his name. I'm going to call him Jose. Really likes her, and I understand. I mean, I like her too.
Right. Sure. Yes.
Yeah. I get it, Jose. Yeah. She's mine, back off. And he gave her a homemade Christmas card. And he showed it to her. And there was a lot of red and black in this Christmas card. It was very, very Targaryen in its colour scheme.
Yes.
And she said, "What is it?" And his English is imperfect, but they managed to figure out what it was. It was a wound. That's what he'd given her for Christmas. I can only assume it was aimed at me. Give that to your husband.
Yes. This is what's coming for you, buddy.
Exactly. But yes, I'm sure the thought was sweeter than I make it out to be. But so the other thing that happened, I hurt my thumb. I think I told you this before we broke. Actually, I hurt my thumb playing soccer. Soccer ball smacked me right on the end of the thumb, and it's been hurting ever since, which is now almost 3 weeks. So I've probably done something relatively serious. But I don't have any doctors in my family, but I do have a veterinarian. So
good enough.
Having a holiday dinner with that family, I took her aside. I said, "Can you check my thumb out here?" And everyone was like, "She's not a doctor. What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm a mammal."
Right. I've got a bone. A dog has a bone.
Exactly. She looked at it and she was like, "Yeah, you know, it looks like you hurt it a little bit. You'll be fine, you know." And I said, "Tell me the truth here, though. If I was an animal, would you be putting me to sleep?" She completely deadpanned. She went, "Are you a horse or a dog?" I was like, "Apparently it's close."
I don't know which one you don't want to be, but sounds like one of the two you wouldn't want to be in that scenario.
I wasn't sure. I figured that horses were more fragile and therefore more likely to get put down, but also much more expensive and therefore more worth saving.
Oh, yes. Although, if a horse breaks its leg, you have to put it down, or is that not a thing?
They typically do, because the recovery is very difficult for a horse, as I understand it.
Okay.
I'm not the expert here. We can get Brinkley on the show if you want.
Right, yes. You dial Brinkley in real quick. We've got some horse questions.
So the last story I had was my tennis partner and friend Alex. His father passed away over the holiday. It was very sad, and I
sorry to hear that.
Sat and house sat for him while he and the family went off to see him. They got to see to his bedside before he died, so they got to say goodbye. But then there was more time sorting things out. I'm not complaining. Happy to do it. Friends in need. They have two dogs, and their dogs. They have a black dog and a white dog, and they're both quite large. They're both sort of in the sort of 50 pounds, maybe 25 kilogram range, bigger than my dogs. And
how many stone is that?
Well, 50 pounds would be like 4 stone, you know.
Okay.
But they sleep on the bed, and they were kind of lonely, and it was also cold. And so they were really on top of me in the bed. It was like, they did not see me as a stranger at this point. They were friendly with me at bedtime. But so two things happened. One was I woke up in the middle of the night, and I could tell by the shape that I was in that the dogs had formed a perfect yin and yang symbol, and that I was the dividing line between the two of them. I was shaped like an S trying to curl between them. But the other thing that happened was I turned my head in the night, and I've lived a long life, right? But this has never happened to me before, ever. The pillow under my head, as I turned, it catapulted out of the bed and landed on the floor 2 feet from the bed.
How hard did you turn your head?
I just turned over. I just rolled over. Now, I think I'd folded the pillow so that gave it a little bit of momentum.
Right. A little springboard action.
Yeah, a little springboard action. So, it doesn't sound ridiculous. It doesn't sound like it was a poltergeist or anything. Just it's a weird thing that happened. But in the morning, I discovered that it had actually shot out of its pillowcase. Its pillowcase was still on the bed. The pillow shot out of the pillowcase. So
now that is something.
I know. When it happened, I thought of you and the iPad. The
iPad, the sliding iPad, right?
Exactly.
That's what I thought of when you mentioned this, as I was hearing it.
I really have never seen that before. I've folded pillows under my head before, and not one of them has ever made a bid for freedom like that.
It almost got there too. It just had a little more oomph. It could have gotten out the window.
So yeah, those are the stories of my break.
Yeah, I'm glad you collected them like that.
Uh-huh.
I had 9 people at my house for a week, so
that's a lot.
It was a lot. We had a good time. It was a nice time, but it is a lot of people to have at your house for such a long spell like that.
Wow, that is a lot. I'm trying to think what that would be like. In my house, it would be 4 to a bed. It'd be like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
We made it work. We had enough space around the house to tuck people into corners and nooks and crannies and such. You sleep under the kitchen table.
So did you get any nice presents over the break?
I did. I got a lot of as you just saw, I got a lot of GOH gear. I got a GOH zip-up hoodie, which I'm very fond of. I got a GOH sweatshirt, which looks very nice. And I got a GOH t-shirt, all 3 with the new Dan-created logo with the raven and the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, my nephew and Ethan and I went to the mall the Saturday before Christmas because Ethan and his friend group were doing a what's it called? Secret Santa. That's what I was looking for. Yes. And most years they do it, and it's kind of just like gag gifts and stuff. But this year, they're all adults, and they're in their mid-20s now, and they decided, no, we're going to do real heartfelt gifts with a spending amount of $50. You got to get as close to $50 without going over. So It was 2 days. It was the day before he had to give the gift. So, of course, he hadn't done it yet. So we go into the mall on a Saturday before Christmas. So it was it was rather chaotic. And we went into this one store, Vans, which is like a skateboard type store, like apparel. It's a clothing store for like skateboarders and such. And we all agreed on this sweatshirt, and so it had a cool logo on it, and we liked it. And right before we bought it, a guy says, a guy that works at the store, we assume, says, "Hey, everything in the store is 30% off. So, and if you go up to the register and they don't give you the 30% off, you come talk to me, and I'll make it happen." So Ethan goes up to the register and pays for the item, and it was the guy who told him this that he had his transaction with while purchasing. He's walking away and he's looking at a receipt and he goes, "Dad, didn't that guy tell us that everything was 30% off?" And I was like, "Yeah." He said, if it didn't show up on the register, talk to him. And he's like, "Well, it didn't show up on my receipt that he gave me 30% off." So I was like, "Well, go back up to the register and talk to the guy." Meanwhile, the guy's like hightailing it through the store into the back and never to return. So we were like, "Oh, well, who was this guy? This 30% off man who came and gave us the, said 30% off and then disappears." So Ethan went to another associate and explained what happened. And he was like, "Oh yeah, that was his last sale. Then he was leaving for the day." So he rang it up and then took off, but he never gave Ethan a discount. So the guy gave Ethan the discount, which was nice. It took a little longer and all that jazz. You were hoping it would be like the guy would be like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about."
I was. I really wanted everybody else in the store to deny ever hearing the guy shout it. That would have been hysterical.
I don't know what man you're talking about.
Like, I would love the idea that the whole staff had this like thing going all day that 2 minutes before you knock off, yell out something absolutely crazy that we can never recover from.
Right. Buy one, get one free on all items.
Exactly. Goodbye!
Well, we buy this sweatshirt. He does get his 30% discount. And the next day, he gives it to his friend. And his friend holds it up and says, "Why did you get me a women's sweatshirt?" And he was like, "What do you mean? How do you know it's a women's sweatshirt?" And he was like, "Because it's a crop top. It doesn't have like a seamed bottom." And Ethan was like, "Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying." So I mentioned this to Stacy and she was like, "Oh yeah, I knew right away that was a woman's sweatshirt." And I was like, "Why didn't you say anything?" And she was like, "Well, did you want to go back and return it on that day?" And I was like, good point. Better to just let him give the gift and then return it after Christmas.
So also now I'm worried about the fact that he went and got a $50 sweatshirt, but it rang up at $35. So did he have to like give the receipt to the recipient for that person to take back, who would then go, "God, he cheaped out. $35 we were supposed to spend $50.
You still owe me some money, buddy."
Exactly. I want $15 and a sweatshirt that I can wear.
The moral of that story is it's never a great idea to send 3 guys into a clothing store to buy a gift. It's just, You're looking for trouble right there.
No. I almost commented on that when you set off, actually. I was like, "Oh, yeah. That's
missing a key component here."
Exactly. Recipe for failure right there.
Stacy said, "That's what you get. You're sending 3 idiots into a store together." Anyway.
Anyway, let's get down to business. How did we leave Tyrion Lannister? Last we saw of Tyrion, he was watching in dismay as Oberyn Martell snatched defeat from the jaws of victory in his duel with Gregor Clegane, thus proving Tyrion's guilt in the eyes of gods and men. The men already thought he was guilty. He's led away to the Black Cell to await his execution. Mackelly, why don't we give the summary of this one? Oh, did we write this?
We did not write this.
Ooh.
This summary comes courtesy of Jenny of Oldstones.
Should be a good one.
And as Jenny always does, she titles her summaries. And this one is called No Gold.
You know what? When I first saw it, I didn't make the connection, but now I do.
Now you do.
Stay alert, listeners.
Well, Tyrion hears noises outside his cell door and thinks his time is up. He wonders whether he'll be dealt with here in the dark or dragged through the city. As the door opens, the torchlight reveals Jaime. He tells Tyrion that Tyrion is to be executed tomorrow, but that he's here to rescue him. Jaime tells him Varys drugged the guards and is waiting to smuggle him out of the city via the sewers. There's a galley waiting for him in the bay.
When Tyrion thanks him, Jaime admits he's paying a debt that is owed. Tyrion doesn't quite understand that and presses Jaime, who confesses that Tysha, Tyrion's first wife, was not a whore. That was a lie that Tywin forced Jaime to tell so that Tyrion would learn a sharp lesson, though Jaime swears he didn't know that Tywin would give her to the guards. Tyrion is too furious to believe him and backhands Jaime, swearing revenge on all three, Tywin, Cersei and Jaime.
Tyrion says he'll find Varys himself. Jaime asks him if he's guilty of killing Joffrey. Tyrion reveals Cersei is sleeping with Lancel and Osmond Kettleblack, and then claims that he did indeed kill Joffrey. Jaime simply turns and walks away. Tyrion is tempted to call out and take back what he said, but he thinks of Tysha and keeps silent.
When Tyrion finds Varys, he asks why Varys didn't help him until now, and asks about his lady wife, Sansa Stark. Varys claims he was being watched and that there is no sign of Sansa. He leads Tyrion down pitch-black passages until they come to a dimly lit chamber. Tyrion realizes that this is the place that Shae told him of when Varys had helped her get into the Tower of the Hand. They are below it. When Tyrion asks how to get to his old bedchamber, Varys answers, but protests that there is no time. Tyrion begins to climb.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes. When he reaches the top of the ladder, he can hear Tywin's guards talking about Tyrion's impending execution. He enters the bedchamber through the secret door in the fireplace and hears Shae's voice. She's in his father's bed, with the gold chain of office decorating her throat. When she sees Tyrion, she insists she was forced to tell the lies that she did at trial, and that Tywin frightens her. He asks if she ever liked his touch. She says more than anything, and then calls him her giant of Lannister.
Oh, no, she didn't.
Yeah, she did indeed. Tyrion strangles her with the hand of the king chain, then takes a crossbow off the wall.
He finds his father in the privy tower. Tywin seems unconcerned by Tyrion's sudden appearance and tells Tyrion he means to send him to the wall. Tyrion has only one question. What did Tywin do with Tysha? Tywin claims the steward sent her on her way to wherever whores go. Tyrion shoots him above the groin, and Tywin's bowels loose as he dies. The stench proves that, in fact, Tywin does not excrete gold, although that isn't the word in the book, just FYI.
No, it's not. But it is no gold. There is
It is
no
not gold, that's for sure, yes, indeed.
Why, Giant of Lannister? Why?
Yes, she needed to just not say that, because that was her death sentence right there.
Social awareness at a 0 right there.
Yeah, because Tyrion was still willing to believe her. I know that for a fact. Tyrion was still willing to believe her. But she then repeated the line she used against him in the trial, and he could, that broke it.
I guess just habit that she used the saying, I guess.
It is an absolute blockbuster of a Tyrion chapter again, by the way.
Oh, yes.
Just like the last one. I mean, just to summarize the main three things, the confirmation of Tysha's innocence, and therefore the brutality and mercilessness of Tyrion's family towards him.
Right.
Absolutely ghastly. Shae's demise, what a character. I mean, she had so little time actually on screen in the book, and yet she sort of like filled a lot of, she filled a lot of the spaces in between with her personality. And then Tywin Lannister getting his absolutely 100% nailed on just desserts.
Right. All in one chapter.
I know. My heart can't take it. If this book continues to end like this, we've got like 4 more chapters left. If every one of these chapters is like this, it'll be a roller coaster.
We might not survive to the end to make it to feast.
So we get conflicting information about how of Tyrion's forthcoming fate. Jaime says that the plan is to behead him tomorrow on the tourney grounds. So presumably Ilyn Payne will be involved. But when Tywin talks to Tyrion, he says that he was never going to kill him. He was always planning to send him to the wall. My thinking on that is that Jaime had the right of it, and Tywin, with his breeches down and a crossbow bolt pointing at his chest, came up with an alternative plan.
Yeah. First of all, the guards back up Jaime's story. Not that they would be on the latest information, but when he's moving along the back side of the wall in the Tower of the Hand, he can hear 2 guards talking, and they're talking about how Tyrion is going to handle his death the next day. So, they're backing up that story. And like you said, Tywin's in much more of a position to need to lie.
Yeah.
So.
Of course, Tywin also wouldn't tell the guards what he's planning to do tomorrow.
Right. And also, Jaime is a member of the small council, so you'd think that Jaime would have updated information. It's possible that it's 3 a.m. Jaime mentions at the beginning of this chapter. It's 3 a.m. on the day of his execution, I would assume. He says it will happen tomorrow, but being that it's still night, he probably means this upcoming day.
Yes.
So possibly it was a last-minute deal that Jaime hadn't been informed of. Is one possibility of how Tywin could have been telling the truth. But yes, most likely he was buying time to defuse the situation.
Right, absolutely. I mean, that's an interesting point you make. I mean, I know I just said interesting, but it is an interesting point because Tywin doesn't have complete control here. If he says, I'm going to commute your sentence to send you to the wall, Cersei and Tommen don't have to agree to that. We saw that happen previously in this book.
Right.
With Joffrey and Ned.
Yeah, absolutely. And he being Tywin, says that he needed Mace Tyrell's consent before he could send Tyrion to the wall.
Oh, that's right. He did say that, which makes it sound like it's not just Tywin's plan, but he has actually been discussing it with others.
Right. And you would think the consent he would need from Mace Tyrell is about the fact that Marjorie also drank from the poisoned chalice.
Yes.
And so, we knew that the Tyrells were upset about that fact.
Yeah.
So
the rescue plan involves Tyrion being sent across the narrow sea to the free cities. He does worry about his future there. Jaime suggests he gets a new name, but as he points out, if Cersei sends a faceless man assassin to kill him, when that person appears in his room and says, I'm here to kill you, Tyrion Lannister, and he says, no, I'm Jon Smith, it's going to be hard to hide the fact that you're a blonde-haired dwarf with a huge facial scar.
Yes, it is a problem. Definitely a problem. Essos is vast. Maybe if he goes to Karth or something like that, somewhere far away and keeps a low profile, maybe he'd be okay. But Cersei is the Queen Regent of the Seven Kingdoms, so funds and favors work in her favor. She has access to hiring professionals like the Faceless Men that could probably track him down. And one thing else I'll say about this conversation that they're having it in his, kind of like in the doorway of his cell.
Yeah.
With the door open. And I was thinking, boy, I really hope there's nobody else in any of these black cells. Because if so, they may very well be overhearing all this plotting. And then they could say, hey, I've got some information that I would be willing to give.
Can I move up a level?
Right.
Yeah, good point. So we do finally learn we believe the absolute truth of the Tysha story. She was exactly who she always claimed to be, a crofter's daughter. The Jaime lied at Tywin's command. And you have a whole catalogue of previous times when Jaime pointed to this.
Yeah, it's just now some of his previous thoughts make more sense. For instance, in Jaime 4, when he was wanting to die, it was the chapter after his hand was severed. I believe it was the very next chapter. And Brienne was kind of nursing him along, and she said, "You have so much to live for." And he thought to himself that he couldn't die because Cersei was waiting for him, and Tyrion, his little brother, who loved him for a lie. In that episode, we discussed the fact that Jaime had told Tyrion that he lied about Tysha, and really that she was a whore to make Tyrion a man.
Yes, his original lie being that he had hired her because he loved his brother and hired her to marry Tyrion,
yes,
make him feel good about himself. But that was the initial lie. The second lie being, well, actually, no, that was the entire lie, right?
Right. Yes.
In fact, yeah, that's a strange thing because he really does love him for a lie. I mean, this is the moment when their bond was forged forevermore because Jaime did something so selfless and kind for Tyrion, which just backfired because of Tywin. At least that's right. Tyrion's view of it to this moment.
Yeah, right.
And that's maybe why it hurts so much, is because, you know, that's right. The basis of why he loved Jaime just got kicked out from under him.
Right. Yes. He takes this so terribly to.
Right, yeah. But stay with me on this because I thought he overreacted to it. I thought it's an overreaction. Yeah. I mean,
right.
He lied on Tywin's instructions and told you this, but that doesn't change who Jaime is. He was just coerced into doing that. But it is that fact, the fact that Tyrion loved Jaime above all others because Tyrion did that one kind thing for him that he never actually did.
Right. I think you said Tyrion did, but you meant Jaime. I know who you meant.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it makes sense. I guess it's understandable that you might react negatively to Jaime because he was involved, but the actual act of the terribleness was all done by his father. So, yes, I could see why you were thinking he was overreacting at Jaime's role in this.
But what you just said made me think it's actually even worse than that, because not only did he create this impression that Jaime was kind to Tyrion by having done this thing for him, but he also denied him the true happiness of his life, which was that a girl fell in love with him.
Oh.
The thing that he's always wanted really did happen. And all this time, he's believed it didn't happen because of the lie that Jaime told him.
Yes. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. The other instance that where Jaime's thoughts now make a lot more sense is when it was Jaime 7, when he first returned to King's Landing, and Cersei wanted him to kill Tyrion. This was before they had sex in the Sept over their dead son's body. Jaime thought, he knew the boy was mine. I loved Tyrion. I was good to him except that one time, but he doesn't know about that. Or does he? Now we know what he's talking about there.
And now we know he does know, because you just told him.
Right. And, my first thought when I read this part was that, well, Jaime was young too, and, probably easily persuaded by his father that the lie was the right thing to do. But it's mentioned that Tyrion was 13 when all of this transpired, which makes Jaime 20 and already a member of the Royal Kingsguard for 5 years. So he's not as young as young and impressionable as I was thinking he might have been.
What was he doing home?
Yeah, must have had some time off.
Yeah, how strange. Yeah. Now we've talked through it. It's not an overreaction at all. You betrayed Tyrion on so many levels there.
Right. Oh yeah, just horrible, absolutely heinous gang rape. I mean, it's unfathomable, really. And like you said, Tywin deserves everything he got in this chapter for that alone.
So he becomes completely irate at this. He lashes out at Jaime. He actually strikes him. But then he doesn't ever stop to think about what it must have been like for Jaime. But you're right, he was 20. He had agency here. He could have He could have fought the fight. He could have said, run away with her, Tyrion.
Could have, yeah. But of course, Jaime argues that he never knew, he had no idea this was coming, the gang rape.
Right.
Which is understandable, I guess.
Yeah. Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point, because Tywin would have told him, look, I want this marriage annulled. You need to tell Tyrion this so that he knows he has to not marry her, so that he won't fight against the annulment.
Tywin being upset and wanting this marriage annulled is now not an outrageous thought. If your 13-year-old son goes off and marries some random girl,
right,
you might not approve. It's the sharp lesson.
Especially your 13-year-old son, who is now currently the heir to Casterly Rock, because your other son has abandoned all claims.
Right. Yes, so that bit, I can't fault him for. It's the terrible, heinous, sharp lesson, as he puts it.
But the thing is, you're right. He could have convinced Jaime that only that first bit was the issue.
Right.
We've got to free him from this. We're going to lessen the blow on him by saying that you paid for her.
Yeah. So then Jaime asks Tyrion, okay, I was honest with you, now you be honest with me. Did you do it? Which Tyrion thinks, first of all, is another knife in his gut that Jaime would even ask that question. But Tyrion is in such a state right now that he pretty much just unloads on Jaime, and he informs on Cersei and says that she's sleeping with Lancel, Osmond Kettleblack, and says probably Moonboy for all I know.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes.
Yeah, so we know she's sleeping with Lancel. We've heard rumours, I think, about her sleeping with the Kettleblack.
Yeah. Lancel is a certainty, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, Osmond Kettleblack is a little more uncertain. Varys told Tyrion that Tyrion could match Cersei coin for the Kettleblack's loyalty, but that she offers other rewards that he can't match.
Right.
And then Tyrion pressed a little further, and Varys said, to this point, it's only been heavy flirting and promises of future endeavors. So it's possible Tyrion could be taking a little bit of liberty with what he's been told.
Right.
We don't know exactly.
But we know now that the Kettleblacks are Littlefinger's men, right?
Yes, we do.
So probably Littlefinger would encourage that if he had any control over it.
Sure, just more compromising position for Cersei, yeah. But what does Jaime do with this info? It's pretty big news for Jaime. I mean, this is his twin sister and the love of his life, and he's just being told that she's been unfaithful to him the whole time he was gone.
Whereas he is never unfaithful, right?
No, since he's been a POV, his thoughts and words have only been of desire for Cersei and getting back to her, basically fueling his will to survive through the ordeal that he went through this book.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say possibly their father's death might push down this in the list of priorities of things that need to be dealt with immediately.
Yeah. Reasonable, yes.
Right. But if he believes Tyrion, and he might think Tyrion's just lashing out at me because he's so upset, it's possible that Jaime could not believe this. But if so, it'd be really hard to hear and hard to take.
Yeah. The next thing that he tells him is that Joffrey armed the catspaw with Robert's dagger to kill Bran. Jaime says, I feared as much, that basically he'd come to the same conclusion independently, that it made sense that that's where the dagger had come from. Well, they are brothers. They would think they're on the same thought paths.
Yeah, so Tyrion came to the conclusion during the wedding breakfast before the fateful wedding reception, when Joffrey said that he had knowledge of Valyrian steel, and then he remembered Joffrey saying during their stay in Winterfell joking about sending a dog to kill a wolf. And he kind of put all that together. And we had commented at the time in that chapter that seemed like a bit of a leap to come to that final conclusion. But, Tyrion's mind works quick. I had to bounce this off the
Discord.
The BMAX Sustainer channel. Make sure I had my facts straight there. Jenny reminded me about the sending a dog to kill a wolf bit. I'd forgotten about that.
But Jaime had better information, really, because he talked to Cersei about it, and Cersei mentioned that Robert talked in front of Joffrey about how it would be better if Bran had died.
Yes. I am stunned right now that you pulled that out of the top of your head. That's fantastic.
It was in the outtake episode, which is the last episode I heard.
Oh, it makes so much more sense now. I was like, I was agape. I was like, what a fantastic recollection.
That Robert talked about how it would be better if Bran had died in front of the children. That was the outtake.
That's right. I remember this now. But yes, to your actual point, that is what happened. Yeah, and then Jaime was thinking that possibly Joffrey had heard that and decided to get some accolades from his father by hiring this catspaw to carry out this plan. And of course, we commented at that time about how much of a long game that was that Joffrey was playing.
Right. I remember that conversation too, yes.
Yeah.
So then Tyrion says that he killed Joffrey, which is we know not to be not true, and also seems like a very reckless thing to do to Jaime Lannister at this point.
Yeah, because he's kind of lucky that he just walked away. That Jaime just walked away and didn't throw him back in the black cell or anything. But once again, here's Tyrion playing into being the monster that the people believe him to be, just like clockwork. But this time's out of anger and desire to hurt Jaime.
I will say, in Tyrion's defense, it must be galling to him how many of his friends and compatriots believe that he did this. Almost none of them are saying, well, of course he didn't do this,
Right, yes. Yeah, Jaime certainly could have said, I know you didn't kill Joffrey. Maybe that would have calmed Tyrion down a little bit, knowing that his brother believed him, regardless of of what the trial said.
You kind of owe him one at this point, Jaime.
Right? Yeah. I guess maybe Jaime was getting upset as well. I guess he tried to be remorseful and regretful when he was, when Tyrion slapped him. He said, "I guess I deserve that." But then, as Tyrion is continuing to berate him, probably starting to put Jaime on the defensive as well, I guess.
Yeah, true. So now Tyrion gets handed over to Varys, who leads him through the darkest part of the dungeons. And Tyrion asks Varys if he knows anything about Sansa. And Varys gives an update that Sansa's not been found, nor has Sir Dontos Hollard, which we don't expect him to be found anymore because he was killed and set on fire in Blackwater Bay, right?
Yes, yeah. If they find him, they're really digging.
Right.
They're drudging the bay for bodies. Yeah. Could it be that Varys is playing a game and he knows more than he's letting on?
In what sense?
Well, just that... Well, first of all, we know that he and Illyrio are up to something involving a Targaryen reemergence. We heard that in that Arya chapter a million years ago. And so maybe it works better in their favor if there's mystery and intrigue revolving around what happened to Sansa, what was her involvement. Because I just find it hard to...
What is he withholding?
Well, I just find it hard to believe that Sansa and Dontos took the Serpentine Stairs, which is fairly central to the castle. It's in a lot of descriptions.
Yeah.
And that no birds were around. They were spotted there. That was the last place they were seen, on the Serpentine Stairs. It feels like there had to have been a bird that saw that and followed them.
Interesting. Yeah.
And at least know that the two of them escaped together.
Right, yes. But he's kind of hinting at that, right? He's kind of hinting at that. They were seen fleeing together. I don't know where they went. What could he know more than that? He could know that they went out onto a ship in the Blackwater Bay and Littlefinger was on board that ship. He could know that. He might sit on that because he doesn't want anyone to know that Littlefinger got something over him, got something past him.
Yes, that's true. And you would imagine it's all Littlefinger's men on that ship.
Right.
Like carefully hand-picked men.
Yeah, but I don't think Varys is withholding to cause trouble in the realm here. I think he's probably maybe withholding out of professional pride, or he's actually basically told him everything he knows, which is those two ran away. Right. Don't know where they went.
Right.
But tell me more. You have what's this I see?
I have another conspiracy theory that you will probably shoot a bunch of holes through.
That's what I'm here for.
As so often happens when I come up with these theories. Okay, so the next thing that happens in this chapter is they get to this corridor, and there's several doors, and on the ground there is a dragon mosaic. And that's when Tyrion realizes where he is.
Yes.
He recalls that when Shae was brought in to his Tower of the Hand chambers,
yes,
that she mentioned seeing that mosaic on her way.
Absolutely.
And so Tyrion wants to know how to reach the Hand of the King chambers. And Varys strongly protests, but also gives Tyrion exact info that he will need in order to climb the
230 steps
ladder.
Up, 60
Right.
steps along, third door on the left.
Exactly. Exactly to kill Tywin. Also in this chamber with the mosaic is a brazier with coals burning just enough to give light to see details to the floor. So I wondered, why was there a fire burning in a random brazier in the 4th level of a dungeon? And then I thought, might Varys have lit it so that Tyrion could see where they were right then, and trust that Tyrion's quick mind will put the pieces together and decide to go kill his father?
Let me interject. Let me amp up your conspiracy theory. He only helped Shae to get to the bedchamber so that she would see the dragon mosaic and report it to Tyrion, so that down the line he could put an embrasure by that mosaic and Tyrion would recognize it.
That's how many steps ahead Varys is playing this game. Littlefinger has nothing on him. So, and then I was thinking, well, but how would he know that all this was going to transpire as it did? Well, Varys might have suggested to Jaime that it's really great that you're helping your brother. It's a really nice way to repay any debts that you might owe him. Now, this would require Varys to have known the actual Tysha story. Right. Yes, which I don't know if he knows, or he is the master of whispers, so it's possible he does know this kind of information. So yeah, that's my theory. We know that Varys and Illyrio Mopatis are working on some sort of Targaryen reemergence plan, possibly getting rid of the strongest lord currently in the Seven Kingdoms. Might work in their favor for this plan.
But Jaime doesn't. I mean, he doesn't have to know about Tysha to spring this plan. He works with Jaime to free Tyrion because he wants to free Tyrion, and then thinks to himself, "Haha, I'm going to use this to get rid of Tywin." Nothing to do with Jaime and knowledge of the.
The only reason why I'm saying
because Jaime would have been there.
Is that Tysha? He would be so angry about learning the truth about Tysha that he would want to kill his father. But he'd have other reasons
anyway, given what he's done. But actually, Jaime might have been there too, because Jaime stormed off in a huff, right? Basically leaving him on his own.
Oh, yes.
Jaime might have said, "We do not have time for this, little brother. Come this way."
Yes. Yeah, it's not clear whether Jaime was planning on accompanying them out or not.
Yes, it was a handover. Yeah, you're probably right.
Anyway,
So,
that's my conspiracy.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. So Shae is in Tywin's, formerly Tyrion's, bed. She's wearing the Hand of the King chain, and he actually chokes her to death with that chain. She has a sleepy smile, which turned to tears when she sees that it's Tyrion, not Tywin. And she claims that she's scared of Tywin, but it's kind of belied by the fact that she was giving him the doe eyes until she realized who it was.
Yeah, this is Shae is such an enigmatic character. Possibly the most enigmatic character in the entire story. She lived and died without us ever really knowing how she felt about Tyrion. It's something. Yeah.
Well, she didn't feel it deeply enough. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. Now, one thing she does.
Let me turn it around. Tyrion would never have betrayed her the way she betrayed him.
Right. Yeah. I have to agree with you. Yeah. One thing she does is when she sees him, she pulls the blankets up to her chin, basically, and then as they're talking, she lets it slip. Could just be that she's scared and forgot that she was even holding them, or it could be an attempt to distract and redirect Tyrion's attention. It's just so hard to know with Shae.
Yeah.
But I do know this. Terrible situational awareness to drop the Giant of Lannister line. Oh.
Indeed. Because she probably didn't even notice when she was saying it that it was going to sting so badly. You know what I mean? Because she said a lot of things on the stand. That was just one of them. It certainly caused guffaws in the crowd, but she didn't think about the fact that those guffaws were going to sear that into his soul.
Yeah. Now, she claims that she was forced to share the information that she did during the trial and embellish the truth. And I absolutely could see that. I could absolutely see Cersei, or possibly a torturer of some variety, making sure that she spills this information in the worst light possible.
Yeah, but we said at the time, she added details that were just hurtful. They didn't help the case, but they hurt Tyrion. She was volunteering them. That was the part that felt like the true betrayal.
I recall. Yep.
Just in passing, there's a lot of violence against women in this era and fantasy books in general, but this one does feel at least narratively justified. Not justified in the sense that she deserved to die, but it makes sense that this would happen.
Sure,
because he's so angry and feels so much hurt. It's still violence against women, which we do not condone.
Absolutely. So after he kills Shae, he's not done yet. He takes down a crossbow off the wall, and he thinks to himself he knows exactly where to find his father, which happens to be the privy tower. And he literally catches Tywin with his pants down.
Indeed.
And we know how it ends, because Jenny mentioned in the summary he ends up killing Tywin. And, murdering Tywin and escaping definitely makes Tyrion seem more guilty of the crime for anyone who's observing the whole situation. You'd certainly be hard-pressed to find someone to think, nah, I still think he's innocent.
Well, that's very true, yeah. I mean, but he was fleeing anyway.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure he doesn't care at this point, but it's so George Martin to end such a powerful man's life in such a contrasting manner.
Yes.
Him sitting on the potty, basically.
Yes.
And being killed by his son.
Yeah.
So, but ultimately, the mighty Tywin Lannister is no longer.
Yeah. And Jenny kind of brushed over it slightly, but he actually murders him for saying the word whore, because he refers to Tysha as a whore. And Tyrion says, if you call her a whore again, I'll kill you. And Tywin doesn't believe him, and a few seconds later mentions the word whore again, and Tyrion immediately loosens the quarrel and kills him with one shot.
Right. Yeah. And he specifically asks him, he says, Tyrion says, I have one question for you, and then I'll be on my way. What did you do with Tysha? And ultimately, Tywin says, I don't know, the steward released her, and he says, where did she go? And Tywin says, wherever whores go. And that's when he shoots him. And not to provide any spoilers, but that thought, that line will come up in Tyrion's head for a while.
And then you were curious as to whether or not, if he hadn't said it, he really would have left him be.
Right. It's what he said. Not that I necessarily think that he was being 100% honest, but if he was being honest and Tywin abide by the rules, what would he have done there?
I gotta say, I think you stick around long enough, Tywin's gonna say that word again, you know.
Yes, it won't take long.
What do you call that type of frost that forms on, like, branches in the cold nights of winter? Hoarfrost! Ah!
Yeah, might have been something along those lines.
Wait, tricked me. So what happens now? I mean, Cersei suddenly has an advantage because Tyrion, her sort of nemesis, is going to be out of the picture. Tywin, her father, and someone who's been sort of clamping down on her excesses is out of the picture.
Right.
She could be Queen Regent and Hand of the King again, and Lady of Casterly Rock, right? I mean,
well, yeah. So that was something I was thinking about. When Jaime was told about what Cersei was up to, sleeping with Lancel and possibly Osmond Kettleblack, might that be the thing that causes him to think, you know what, I'm going to go be Lord of Casterly Rock. I don't want to be stuck at King's Landing with you any longer. So I'm going to take off my white cloak. I will accept my resignation, and I'm going to go be Lord of Casterly Rock instead.
Yeah.
But another person we have to consider is Kevin Lannister. Might he step in as Hand of the King? Kevin certainly knew Tywin's plans and seemed like a solid, steady guy, but he's always had Tywin steering the ship. So then, are we going to get a dance of the Lannisters between Cersei and Kevin?
Yeah, I've got to say, I've always thought of Kevin as being sort of the nicest Lannister in many ways. If I were him, I would want out of this den of vipers. And
right.
I might say, hey, I'll go be Regent of Casterly Rock until we come up with an heir,
Yeah, sure, yeah. You would think, knowing Tywin the way that we do, that he would have a succession plan for Casterly Rock.
Yeah.
He said it clearly wasn't going to be Tyrion.
Yeah.
So why not Kevin? And also, I wonder, now with the death of Tywin, might Jaime and Cersei be more open about their relationship?
Yeah, possibly.
Although, if they do, coupled with Tywin's death, might it cause the realm to swing back towards Stannis if they think, oh, I think Stannis was right all along.
Right. That's always the problem for them. There's many problems with them being open about their relationship, but that's the biggest one,
yes.
Is that their children's claim to the throne is immediately eroded.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so now we're just going to have a discussion which will include some spoilers, which, for me, it'd be brand new news, presumably. But this is only for the highest levels of our sustainer tiers. So if you're interested in getting a bit of this, get onto the Buy Me a Coffee site and become a sustainer.
That's right.
All right, do you have some background for us?
I do. So we all remember that Tysha was Tyrion's wife, and we're reminded that Tyrion was told that Jaime hired her to act like she loved him and take his virginity, but possibly only Simon and his steel-trap memory recall the full details of the story. So here's a reminder of how it all went down. Tysha was an orphan daughter of a crofter. Tyrion was 13 years old and was traveling with Jaime, who we've established was 20, based on their age gap. They were traveling from Lannisport to Casterly Rock, and they came across Tysha being attacked by outlaws. Jaime chased the men when they fled, and Tyrion was tasked with taking care of Tysha. The pair went to a nearby inn, where they drank and ate and talked, and One thing led to another, and before they knew it, they were getting to know each other a bit more intimately.
Mm-hmm.
The couple then fell in love and were married by a drunk septon. The newlyweds spent 2 weeks in marital bliss in a little cottage by the sea. Unfortunately for them, the septon sobered up and told Tywin about what he'd done. That's when he ordered Jaime to tell the story about him hiring Tysha and the outlaws in an oddly elaborate scheme to help Tyrion lose his virginity. As Tyrion alludes in this chapter, Tywin had Tysha gang raped by a barrack's worth of guards, with each guard giving her a silver coin. Tywin then forced Tyrion to be the last to rape her and gave her a gold coin, as Lannisters were worth more than commoners. And obviously, Tywin had the marriage dissolved.
I will say, hearing it back again, and while we're talking about this, it does seem like a setup.
Right. Yeah.
I could
Yes.
totally see why you would believe it was a setup, because it just has all the hallmarks.
Yes. I know what you're saying. Right.
Yeah. All right, comparison with the television show, it's all broadly maintained. Jaime is his rescuer and makes the point that Varys was coerced into helping. But they actually leave each other on very fond terms. There's no discussion of Tysha. They actually leave with a hug and a kiss.
Tysha was she completely written out? Or do you recall whether
She wasn't completely
she
written out because when Tyrion first met Shae, the two of them and Bronn talked about it before the battle at the Green Fork.
Oh, okay.
Definitely happened, but that's
Okay.
it didn't have the same prominence it has. in the
Okay.
books.
That makes sense.
Tyrion figures out where he is when he's left alone by Jaime. Jaime leaves and says, "Go up those stairs, you'll meet Varys." He realizes where he is and goes to visit Shae and Tywin. Shae never speaks a word. She opens her eyes and you get sort of like her POV and he comes into focus. And she immediately reaches for a fruit knife by the side of the bed and tries to kill him.
Oh, well, that is one certainly interpretation of how she feels about Tyrion.
But honestly, what I interpreted from the TV show was that she just thought he was going to kill her. She was just
Right,
jumping.
yeah.
She's
Okay.
not trying to kill him. She's just trying to defend her own life there. And it turns out
Yes.
she had a point.
Yes, that makes sense.
They fight. He kills her very much the same as in the book. If you remember, the hand's chain is not the hand's chain in the TV show, so it's just a gold chain around her neck, just a random gold chain around her neck.
Okay, I did not remember.
They replaced it with a gold brooch rather than the chain of office, so that chain of office never existed. The scene with Tywin is enlarged to give Dinklage and Dance one last chance to shine, and they are fantastic in it.
I'm sure.
It is the same in the sense that he says the word whore for the second time, but they're talking about Shae. Tyrion is broken up about what he's done to Shae.
Okay.
Tywin calls her a whore, and he says, "If you call her a whore again, I'll kill you." And a few minutes later, Tywin, true to form, says it again, and the crossbow bolt flies. The crossbow, by the way, is the crossbow that was given to Joffrey for his name day. That he used.
Oh.
Yeah, it's that same crossbow. I don't
Is
know
that
why
a double barrel crossbow?
It needs a tool to set it. I don't think it fired two. But it was enormous.
Right. Yeah. I recall that. Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Good comparison there.
Yeah, you know what I did? I actually watched the TV show. So I did.
That's good. Good that you did.
Yeah.
Really helps.
Pedantry Corner, I couldn't find anything. It's just another corking chapter. Too much good stuff.
Yes, if there was anything, it was caught up in all the drama and excitement and sadness.
What about news and notes?
Well, George Martin gave an update on some of his A Song of Ice and Fire related shows that are in development at HBO. He mentioned that 2 of the 4 animated projects are still progressing. The other 2 have been shelved, at least for now. And that 9 Voyages, which is a story that they're developing revolving around Corlys Velaryon, aka the Sea Snake, has been moved from a live-action concept to animation. The reasoning is that half the story takes place on the water, and also that they're in a new city very frequently, and so the costs would have just been too high for live action.
Okay, so Corlys Velaryon was in House of the Dragon. He is he's the African American guy with the long dreads, right? The older one. Yeah.
Yes.
Husband to Rhaenys.
Yes. Steve Toussaint, is that the actor's name?
I don't know. I'll believe you on that.
I could be making that up.
And we have 2 pieces of news from Mark B. He's our newest BMAX sustainer at the Hedge Knight level. Fantastic. Thank you so much for your support, Mark. And he left us a review on podchaser.com. Mackelly, take it away.
All right. Well, first I want to say thank you to Mark for becoming a sustainer. That's fantastic. But this review is fantastic as well. In fact, Mark's first line is, "This is a fantastic podcast."
This is a fantastic review.
So
straight back at you.
Yes. So this is a fantastic podcast. I'm so happy I stumbled across it, as it is a perfect companion for my second read-through of A Song of Ice and Fire. I started about a year ago, and I am currently a year behind the new episodes and looking forward to catching up in, checks watch, January 2025. The hosts, Simon and Mackelly, are an excellent team with a superhuman ability to walk the fine line of engaging and fun content. One will deep dive with the best of them, while the other knows exactly when to charge forward to keep the listeners engaged.
I know who's who, but there, by the way.
What, do you? Which is which?
You're the
can't
diver.
quite put my finger.
You're the diver. I'm the driver.
I like those titles, the diver and the driver.
Yeah.
I like that. Their spoiler-free approach lends itself to a consistently fresh feeling in each episode. As someone who has read this series already, there is an unexpected entertainment value listening to the hosts feign ignorance about future plot points.
Well, only one of us.
My favorite is the background section, where the hosts look more closely at the rich lore that George Martin has built. And I especially enjoy learning about the minor houses, their heraldry, and their words. 10 out of 10, highly recommend.
Thank you, Mark. That's terrific.
That is. Thank you so much, Mark.
Let's conclude this one. I have enough tears to fill a well for Tyrion, for Tysha, and even for Shae, but not a drop will be shed for that monster Tywin, a man who put his social standing far above honour and far above the love of his children, and as a result, he's raised stunted perverts, basically, whose actions have defiled the realm and will continue to do so for generations. So, good riddance, sir.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. And, of course, gratitude to Jaime and Varys for helping Tyrion escape. That's, keeps Tyrion's storyline going,
indeed,
of course.
Indeed. But will Tyrion's mouth come back to haunt him? He signed off to Jaime that he killed Jaime's son. That seems ill-advised. And so, might their next rendezvous prove less fraternal? I fear it might.
Yeah.
Should there ever be one, of course. Their paths are going to diverge here.
Yeah, and yes, as you said, their paths are diverging. And so it's another one of our POVs departing on a boat across the narrow sea.
Yeah, so I wonder if there might be some intersections of our POVs. Essos is a big place. You said that yourself. But Dany's on Essos. Might Dany meet Tyrion? Arya is heading across to Essos. Might Tyrion meet Arya? That would be strange.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, it is kind of noteworthy that we have multiple characters heading across, at least out in the narrow sea. We don't know. Sansa's also been out there on the narrow sea. We don't know if she's going to go across it or not, but she's out there as well. Yeah. And I just want to repeat that Shae will be missed. She's one of the most, like I said, enigmatic characters in the story. But like you mentioned, even though she didn't have a ton of screen time, she was fascinating and intriguing and colorful character, and we'll miss her.
Yep, I totally agree. I will miss Shae a lot. I still kind of believe in her.
I know you do. You've always been fond of our Shae. And I just want to say that this is the last Tyrion chapter of A Storm of Swords. So, does he escape back to Varys and out to sea? Did this delay possibly cause him to miss his chance to escape?
Oh, I've just realised all the stuff you're asking questions that you answered in the spoiler section, but not in the main body of the podcast. So I was like,
Yes,
you
did.
said all this.
I wonder why you had a weird look on your face.
So yeah, and given the recent events, how's this going to mold his character? He is the things that have happened in this chapter, what he's learned and what he's done, can't help but affect his life forevermore.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he's killed 2 important people in his life, one that he loved, one that he'd hoped to someday get love from, sentenced to death by his sister, betrayed by his brother. You know?
Yeah, it feels like you're building up a reason for a bitter and unpleasant person.
Yeah, and of course he's had plenty of reasons to be that way already in his life, but this is just a whole bunch of really...
He's always had
terrible things at
Lannister
once.
wealth to fall back on. Will he have that when he gets to Essos?
True. I believe Jaime said that Varys has connections that will make sure that he is taken care of, but maybe not to the level of how a Lannister is used to being taken care of. And, you know, I'm going to say something here. It's the tiniest bit spoilery, but I think it's worth saying at this point.
Go on.
You can correct me. If you believe it's too spoilery, just let me know and we'll take this out. But there is no Tyrion POV chapters in A Feast for Crows, so we've got a long time to ponder these questions.
There isn't?
No, he's not a POV in Feast.
Wow.
I know, right? So
That's
this is
why
it
I don't
for
know
a
what
while.
happens to him in the book. Because nothing
I know.
happens.
He just disappears.
Good God. Oh, well.
I know.
So who will we
So-
have to make do with next week then?
Well, next week, we've got Sam Tarly. We're going back north, and I will say King Stannis makes a declaration, and Sam makes a decision and does a brave thing.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Well, there are 4 ways that you can help us out. You could leave us a review and a rating like Mark B did. You could buy merchandise at ghostofharrenhal.threadless.com. You could buy us a cup of Arbor Gold at buymeacoffee.com/ghostharrenhal. Become a sustainer at any of the various levels, the higher ones of which will get you the spoiler talk. Or you could just donate directly to our cause through our website, ghostsofharrenhal.buzzsprout.com.
And if you're looking for more ways to interact with us, keeping up on the latest Ghosts of Harrenhal news and developments, you can check us out on our social media. You can follow us on Twitter at Ghost Harrenhal. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.